Hello, lovelies. Welcome in. My name is Dorky Short Girl, but you can call me Emma. To get to know me a little better, here are a few things about me. I love to draw, play the ukulele, and I'm obsessed with Billie Eilish. Now, let's start this video. Today, I will be discussing Coraline. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Coraline, then you might have heard about the several different theories that are attached to the movie. Some theories make more sense than others. Coraline is one of those movies where you have to go back and rewatch in order to catch the small details, but for the time being, let's jump into the details about the movie. Coraline came out in February of 2009, but the original publication was a novel written by Neil Gaiman on July 2nd of 2002. The story of an 11-year-old girl named Coraline who has blue hair moved to Ashland, Oregon. She's originally from a small town named Pontiac, Michigan. Soon after she moves to Oregon, she decides to put on her yellow raincoat and rain boots, also known as swampers, and go exploring to find the well using a dowsing rod of poison oak. As she goes to explore the gray and gloomy mountainside, she gets scared by the cat we all know and love, Charlie. Soon after she discovers the well, she meets our beloved Wyborn Lovat, also known as Wybie. But according to Coraline, his name is Why Were You Born? Wybie is the grandson of the elderly woman who owns the Pink Palace. In this movie, Wybie is our tritagonist. For some of you lovelies who might not know what that means, it means he's the third most important character in the movie. In this scene, Wybie starts explaining to Coraline that if she stomps too hard, she might fall into the well. The rumor about the well is it's supposed to be so deep you'd see a sky full of stars in the middle of the day.
And if I'm a water witch, then where's the secret well?
You stomp too hard and you'll fall in it.
Oh!
See? It's supposed to be so deep. If you fell to the bottom and looked up, you see a sky full of stars in the middle of the day.
Huh.
Surprised she let you move in. My grandma, she owns the Pink Palace. Won't rent to people with kids.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm Wybie Lovat.
Wybie?
Short for Wyborn. Not my idea, of course. What'd you get saddled with?
I wasn't saddled with anything. It's Coraline.
Caroline what?
Coraline Jones.
There are a few different theories surrounding the well, but this one is describing the mushrooms that form a circle around the well. The circle is also described as fairy rings. The fairy ring could most definitely point to the well being a portal to the other world. Now, going back and doing more research, it was confirmed that it actually is a fairy ring. Later in the movie, Coraline discovers the tiny door that's been sealed over. She pesters her mother about opening the door for her to ease her curiosity about what's on the other side. Once she unseals the door and opens it, she finds that the door is sealed off by brick and mortar. When Coraline goes to sleep later that night, she's accompanied by small mice. She's filled with curiosity and soon rushes out of the room to follow the mice as they lead her down to the small door located in the living room. She opens the door and is hit by a gust of wind. In front of her is a blue and purple tunnel. Now, honestly, when I saw this tunnel when I was a kid watching this movie, I genuinely thought this was the most magical thing I'd ever seen, because I honestly wish that I had a little door that just had this magical tunnel going down, leading to I have absolutely nowhere. I mean, it's just a magical tunnel, you know? But, I mean, as we all know, the famous quote, "Curiosity killed the cat." Coraline takes it upon herself to crawl through the tunnel. She finds herself right back in her home, or at least that's what she thinks. Shortly after she stands up to take a look at her surroundings, she hears the soft humming from the other mother. This is where we are introduced to the other mother, the main antagonist of the story. With the other mother in the kitchen cooking, Coraline is left confused. Earlier in the movie, we learn that her dad does the cooking and her mom does the cleaning. Shortly after Coraline asks her mother what she is doing, she turns around, but only for Coraline to notice a big difference with her mother. The button eyes.
Something smells good. Mom? What are you doing here in the middle of the night?
You're just in time for supper, dear.
You're not my mother. My mother doesn't have...
Buttons? Do you like them? I'm your other mother, silly. Now go tell your other father that supper's ready.
The other mother asks Coraline to go retrieve her father. This is where we are introduced to the other father. Once we learn more about the other father, we learn later in the movie that he had been trying to warn her about the other mother. The other mother wanted Coraline to stay with her forever. Soon Coraline learns that this perfect world isn't as perfect as it seemed. Almost as if it were, I don't know, too good to be true. Her other mother proceeds to set a cake in front of her that says "Welcome Home." If we look at the O's on the cake, we'll notice that the O in welcome only has one loop. Meanwhile, the O in home has two. This double looped O indicates that the person who wrote this, most likely being the other mother, is lying. She may be welcomed, but she is certainly not home. Coraline soon goes to bed and wakes up in her original home. When she rushes back downstairs, she finds the door being sealed off again. Coraline's mother suggests that she go and visit the actresses known as Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. As she steps outside, Coraline stumbles across the pile of mail addressed to Mr. Bobinski. She takes the mail she previously tripped over up to Mr. Bobinski's apartment. This is where we meet his character, Sergei Alexander Bobinski. Shortly after, Mr. Bobinski is informed by the jumping mice to give Coraline a message, but not just any message, a foreshadowing message stating, "Do not go through the little door." When Coraline eventually goes to visit Miss Spink and Forcible, Coraline has her fortune read to her from the tea leaves in her cup. Coraline is soon informed that she is in terrible danger, but what do we see in the cup? A hand. Now, honestly, growing up, that was a little weird to me, he's coming down, being like, "Don't go through the little door." I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, why can't she go through the little door? Why is he telling her this? Why is he telling her that? But, of course, like we learn later in the movie, and let me tell you, this movie overall had me on the edge of my seat. It was that adrenaline rush that you look for. Of course, you might not be looking for that when you're a kid, or maybe you are, just depending on the person. But me personally, it was a wonderful experience. It was like, oh my gosh, I need to do that again. Later in the movie, the other mother loses her hand, but we will get to that later. Coraline's other mother suggests that Coraline stay there forever as she leads Coraline to the kitchen table. The other mother then tells Coraline that there's one more thing that she needs to do, and that is sew buttons into her eyes, such as pink, vermilion, chartreuse. The other mother proceeds to tell Coraline that she only wants what's best for her. But how would she know what's best for Coraline? I mean, how would anyone know what's best for Coraline? What would have happened if Coraline would have accepted the deal? Later that night, when she locks herself in the other room, she wants to go home, but when she tries to fall back asleep, she realizes that she's still in the same bed as before. Why does she not end up in the real bed when she finally wants to go home? Eventually, with the help from the other Wybie, she's able to escape and get back to the other world. After Coraline gets back, she realizes her parents aren't at home. Question is, where did her parents disappear to? Coraline takes it upon herself to go talk to Miss Spink and Forcible. Miss Spink, also known as April Spink, takes 100-year-old candy and makes a small talisman for Coraline to use to find, and I quote, "bad things and fairies." After discovering that Coraline's parents had been taken by the beldam, also known as the other mother, Coraline is destined to go find her parents. She grabs her bag, jacket, wire cutters, hat, and the talisman made for her. She sets off with Charlie to go through the little door to the other world. A little after this, we find out that the other mother loves to play games. But why does she love them so much? Coraline goes through the garden, only to be attacked by the flowers. Thankfully, she came prepared. I guess she finally realized, after being shown, of course, that the talisman will actually help her. In this scene, the other father comes out of the ground and we hear him say, "Mother made me." This is where we tie in where he actually doesn't want to hurt her. He was trying to warn her in the beginning, but he continued to be hushed. Kind of like when you go back and look, like when he gets ready to play that song for Coraline on the piano, and like after he gets through and he plays it for her, once he continues trying to talk, they end up shushing him. I feel like that was definitely like a way of trying to get him to be quiet, for sure. He was trying to warn her in the beginning, but like I said, he continued to be hushed. We learn that from the first ghost eye that is hidden in the garden, and the second one is hidden in the hands of Miss Spink and Forcible in the other world. So where's the last one? The last ghost eye is hidden with the jumping mice that pretend to be Mr. Bobinski. Here comes Charlie, being our hero and getting the last one from the jumping mice that was attempting to escape. Coraline doesn't have much time to find her parents. Will she find them, or will her time run out? Well, with the help of Charlie, he points them out to her. They seem to be in a small Detroit Zoo snow globe sitting on top of the mantle. Now Coraline uses Charlie to her advantage with him being a cat. She throws him and he manages to scratch her butt and eyes, causing her to become blind and turn the room into a web to help her find Coraline. Coraline eventually escapes, but with the help of the ghost children, in the process, the other mother loses one of her hands. Then suddenly, her parents come back through the door, telling her that they are going out to celebrate. Now, let's recap really quick. When I say, Coraline eventually escapes, but with the help of the ghost children, they're struggling and they're fighting and trying their best to shut the door, and in the process, the other mother loses her hand. And I guess Coraline thinks that's it, but boy is she wrong. So after Coraline and her family came home, she sets the ghost eyes under her pillow and hopes to set their spirits free. She has a dream about the spirits of the ghost eyes, telling her that she's in terrible danger and that there's only one key and the beldam will find it. Coraline takes it upon herself to take the key and throw it into the well. But little does she know that the hand that the beldam lost in the midst of the fighting to close the door was actually following closely behind her. As Coraline is getting dragged through the mud, Wybie comes to rescue her, as usual. As they both struggle with the hand, Wybie crushes the hand with a rock, breaking it into pieces. A few minutes later, after they throw the hand into the well and have their little moment, we are led to the last part of the movie. The celebration of the garden catalog, and finally Wybie brings Miss Lovat, his grandmother, to the party they're throwing, and Coraline and Wybie get to tell her everything. Now, unfortunately, we're not quite sure how the conversation went, but we can only assume that it went well. All around, I've loved this movie since I was a kid, like I said before. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 on my movie scale. Honestly, to me, this is one of those movies that I can go back and rewatch over and over again. And I just never get tired of it at all. It's one of my comfort movies. But definitely on sick days or, out of school or just when I'm bored, I've always gone back and I've watched this movie. This has just been on my comfort movie list since I was a kid. Now, at one point, I was absolutely scared of this movie, and then I just continued watching, and I just kept falling more and more in love with this movie every time that I watched it. Eventually got to the point where I was quoting it. In that case, this video is going to end right here. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe and like. Thank you guys so much for the support, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye!